G'day folks and welcome to another episode of The Breakdown brought to you by Newstead Brewing where we're not filming this week. We're back at Ballymore. Back on the desk this week. Jaybor Staunton.
How you going?
Missed you last week, mate.
It's okay, Sauce. You know I love you, mate.
And back from Argentina, Junior Wallabies captain and Brothers flanker Fraser McReight. How are we, mate?
Good, mate. It's good to be back.
All right, now, mate. Obviously just missed out on the chocolates over in Argentina, mate. Going down to France in the final by 1 point. But, mate, overall, how's the campaign?
Yeah, it was awesome. I think all the boys sort of made the tour and same for the staff, and we couldn't ask for a better group of lads to obviously lose the final with. But no, it was just a really good experience playing some good footy over there. So it's good to be back.
And mate, you guys were back in Clubland on the weekend. Yourself, Wilso, and Woody. We can't forget Woody. Getting stuck into the butchery, mate, over at Brothers. Obviously, the Brethren got up in the end, mate, 34-25, but it wasn't all smooth sailing over there, was it, mate?
No, it wasn't. I think Sunnybank were leading for 70 minutes of the match, and I like to say the butchery got the Brothers boys over the line, but I think it's more the fact that they were probably the fitter side and played probably a better game plan in the last 20.
Yeah, mate, you mentioned that fitness there. I think that's what has got Brothers over the line in sort of the last, sort of 3-4 weeks where they've let sides get out to a lead. They've just hung in the fight and closed it out in the end. But, Jay, mate, Sunnybank, mate, that was a really solid performance for them, mate, coming off the bye.
Oh, big time. I think the inclusion of Dave Feo and Josh Yafu is what's really changed their season. Since Ev Willis has come into the mix and they've got a bit more experience there and a bit more starch up front, they're really starting to take it to some sides, and they're definitely going to come away with a couple more wins towards the back end of the season. You can't help but think. With a back line that has guys like the McNamara brothers, Tommy Lucas and Zachy Lucas is about to come back into the fold, you can't help but think that they're going to really trouble some sides.
Mate, what about that try from the McNamara brothers, mate?
Yeah, speaking of the devil, how good was that? Caught the guys napping. The Brothers boys were completely off guard. Fraser, I think you were saying that Lawson didn't even realise anything was happening until it was far
funny.
too late.
We're in the butchery and we're kind of watching this play unfold. And because the Brothers sort of made a break and dropped it, they just thought the scrum or the line was going to happen. And then you get Lawson sort of jogging back to fullback. And Liam just was gone. And then he realised and had to catch up. And yeah, it was pretty funny.
That was the eyes up footy that Sunnybank has been known for so long. And it looks like it's starting to come back into the fold. So hopefully, fingers crossed, they can start playing some good footy again.
Well, I think the key thing for Brothers over the next few weeks, obviously got a bye this week, is going to be the inclusion of you three boys may come back from 20s. When can we expect you to be pulling on the butcher's stripes again, mate?
Hopefully as soon as possible. Like you said, we have a bye this week and then play uni, so hopefully that game. But it's going to be tough to fit us in because the Brothers forwards pack been playing really well, and wherever we can sort of help the team, we'll jump in, but as soon as possible.
I think so. You'll find a spot for you, mate. So moving on to our second match from round 14, it was the clash between the Students and the Eagles over at St. Lucia. A 1 point game, the Students getting up 40-39. What a finish, mate. I don't think anyone would have expected this result heading in.
No, a 1 point win to the Students, I don't think anybody was expecting. But Norths were up by 13 points with 2 or so minutes to go before the two props, Pat Fapulii and Big Beef Train Chris Nielsen, scored that try in about the 84th minute, and Jimmy Dalgleish iced it. So that's 2 weeks in a row now that Norths have let a really good opportunity slip, and I know they're going to be absolutely spewing about it, but the Students are now third on the ladder, something that I said they weren't even going to be playing finals footy this year, and the form they were showing at the start of the season warranted that, but somehow they've fought back. They aren't necessarily playing the type of footy we've seen and come to expect of them over the better part of the last decade, but they're staying in matches and they're coming away with a butter confection. So if they can remain consistent, they should be there come finals time.
And I think, Fraser, mate, watching from afar, obviously Sunnybank and North are far better teams in this second half of the season than they were back in the first sort of 9 games. Heading into finals, mate, there's still a few teams in the top 4 yet to play them. Having seen Sunnybank play on the weekend, seeing how North perform, mate, how much of an impact do you reckon these two teams could potentially have on the makeup of the top 4?
Yeah, they'll have a huge impact. I think looking on the ladder, I think it's ranging from 7th place to 3rd place. I think 5 or 6 points differentiates those teams, and I think a win or loss could definitely here and there could change up the scheme of the ladder. So those two teams have a huge role to play, and who's going to make up the top 4. So it's going to be a very interesting sort of race to the top 4 in the last back half of the season.
And Jay, to finish off, mate, obviously James Dalgleish stepped up to the plate to sink that final conversion to secure the win. How important do you reckon he's going to be, mate, if UQ are to potentially finish in this top 4 and head into another final series?
He and Pat Murray need to play every game the rest of the season. Pat Murray is an absolute gun. He's a freak in the forward pack there, and he needs to be playing 7. And Jimmy Dalglish needs to stay at 10 for the rest of the season. You lose those two guys, you lose all direction in that young uni outfit. And if those two guys can stay there, in particular Jimmy Dalglish, just making sure he's marshalling that back line where it needs to go with TJC, Cassini and co. If he can do that, they should be in a pretty good position.
So moving on to our third match from round 14, it was the clash between Jeeps and West over at Sylvan Road. The Gallopers got up here 29-22. Jay, another tough one to swallow, mate. West were nearly there, mate, but the Gallopers, too good in the end, mate.
Yes, it was do or die for both sides. They both needed that win. Jeeps off the back of 2 losses, West 3. But you could see that they were 2 very desperate sides. It was so fast-paced, straight off the whistle. They were smashing each other. There was so much niggle, which is great to see. I think I even saw Dan Gorman standing in the middle of a fracas with his hands up saying, "I'm not doing anything," which I love to see. It's hilarious because I know how much he would have been stirring the pot. But I think it really came down to maybe just a bit of a lack of experience. They doggies shut off early in that second half, let Jeeps get out to that obviously unassailable lead, and I think it could be curtains on the doggies season if they let this poor run of results continue, because I think that's 4 in a row now and 3 of those by less than 7. So they really need to make sure that they win from here on out, but it doesn't get much easier. You know, they've got the Tigers this weekend at Tigerland, so it's going to be a hard one.
A couple of big individual performances from Jeeps. Fraser, Johnny Kent, Tom Kibble really stood up, mate, for the visitors.
Yeah, 100%. You saw the tries they scored. They were pretty sick tries on Ladies' Day, so they would have been pumped with that. But no, they stood up and played some really good performances, and obviously carried Jeeps on their own back and got the win. So huge.
And mate, you obviously missed the first Brothers Jeeps game, mate. The Wellesley Cup game in round 17. How much are you looking forward to going head-to-head with Kibble, mate?
Oh, mate, it's going to be unreal. I think the boys that went over are looking forward to this match that much. It's at Brothers, last home game, Wellesley Cup, and it's Brothers Old Boys Day, so it's going to be a big crowd and a big game, so we can't wait.
Now, Jamie, you mentioned that West have got a lot of pressure on them on the field. Obviously, they've only got 3 games left compared to a lot of teams having 4. They want to be in the top 4, mate. They can't afford to drop another match, but didn't seem that they let that pressure get to them, mate. The post-match celebrations, seems that the Ladies' Day celebrations were in full swing, mate.
You saw those videos, did ya? Yeah, it was heaving. I raced back from Souths to host it, and it got weird real quick. It was absolutely pumping. Raised a bit of money, which was really good, and they were doing it in support of the White Ribbon Foundation to help raise awareness for the prevention of violence against women. So it's all for a really, really good cause, but things got really wild, I'll admit. So, yeah, hell of a day out. Would have been good to have stuck around, but I know what I've got to get the hell out of a situation. I did exactly that.
Doesn't take much for Harry Higgins to get his kid off, does it?
Of course not. He's seen him, he's ripped like Rambo.
Yeah, if I had a rig like that, I'd be getting it out more.
I don't have a rig like that and I get it out too much.
So moving on to our 4th and final match from round 14, it was the match of the round between East and South over at Chipseywood Oval. The Tigers getting up here 30-17. Jay, East just got up in this one, mate, through their set piece, mate. Their forward pack carried them.
Yeah, big time. The week before, Souths had a really balanced forward pack. Josh O'Rourke coming back, Cal McDonald in the mix. So 2 big, tall second rowers, a really well-balanced back row with Harley Fox and stuff. But on the weekend, they just weren't able to fire a shot in the Titans, so they tried to sing it a little bit too early, and you know that was the difference between the 2 sides. Each were able to consolidate possession a little bit and just work up inch by inch, and then start to find the edges on the fringe. Whereas I think Souths were just doing it a little bit too early, and you know it just got away from them a little bit too much. And despite a spirited comeback, they just didn't have enough in the tank towards the back end of the game.
Yeah, mate, I think East just really sort of took that back line out of the arsenal of South, and the Magpies were probably missing, as you mentioned, there, Harley Fox and Sean Farrell, 2 blokes that can get over the gain line and provide them with a bit of a platform. One key inclusion for the Tigers, Reece Van Neck back from the 20s. How good was he, Fraser?
Mate, he was awesome. Just his scrummaging work, and he's so mobile around the park, and I think sort of East missed him when he was gone, and it's good to see him back in Tigers colours. And how good was the kick he put in? So I think that just I just think that shows the sort of player he is, and he's willing to take risks, and he's going to be awesome over the next couple of weeks.
And another bloke that really killed it, mate, Jack Frampton at 10. That seems to be his best position, mate.
I think so. I mean, nothing against Phoenix Hunt, but I think their halves need to be Eli Pills and Jack Frampton. You saw on the weekend, Pillsy came on the field and automatically just the I don't know. It's just the attitude of the team really picked up. He offers a lot more with his running game, and Jack Frampton very much the same. He needs to be a 10. He needs the ball in hand as much as possible. It was wet weather footy, yet he still was having a bit of a sniff on the fringes with his footwork, and he's the sort of player that can open up guys like Landon Hayes on the outside. So he needs to be at 10. Eli Pills at 9, and I think that will give the Tigers the best shot at making the finals.
Man, the other bloke had a good game was Landon Hayes. He knew he had a passing game.
I know. I actually called out Gordo about that in the broadcast. He said he never knew that he could actually throw a triple cutout like that. And I said, probably because you don't pass the ball, Gordo. So it's amazing what can happen when you get the hog out of 12 and let Landon Hayes have a bit of space.
All right, well, this weekend, obviously, round 15 is kicking off. Well, let's take a look at the matches on offer. The first clash, East v West at David Wilson. Jay, who's your pick for this one, mate? Obviously, two teams that really need a win.
I'm going to go with the Doggies. Going to go with my heart, obviously. But I reckon East will win, eh? I reckon East will win. Their forward pack is just too strong. You saw on the weekend, the Doggies forward pack, if they can't get good front foot ball to unleash their back line, they do get hamstrung a little bit, and it could just be a little bit too much for the Doggies. So if they can step up in the front row and co, possibly, but East at home is always so hard.
Yeah, I sort of agree. I think East will probably win the match, and East crowd is sort of like their 16th man, so that helps their home team so much. So I think they're going to be tough to beat, and I think that's what they need in this sort of back half of the season to kind of get them in the top 4.
Well, it's no secret who I'm going to pick, so...
Up the Doggies. Oh, what?
All right, next clash, Sunnybank v UQ at Old Mac. Fraser, we'll throw to you first, mate. This could be an interesting one, mate. I reckon it's going to be pretty tight. Yeah,
I think it's going to be pretty tight as well. I think over the last sort of few weeks, two sides have been quite close in their matches, but I'm actually going to go for the Bank this one. I think they played really well on the weekend, and then I think if Zachy plays, I think he's going to be the key man. So given that he plays and the sort of the form they're in with the tight 5 and the back 3, they're going to be pretty hard to beat. So that's my pick.
Jay, thoughts, mate?
Exactly the same. I reckon Sunnybank will do UQ here. Just because, as I said, look, I could be proven wrong because the students have been proving me wrong all year. They're staying in matches and they're getting towards the pointy end of the ladder just by being a bit grittier than they have been in the past. But Sunnybank seem to be on a roll. They've got a really strong forward pack, and I mean, unless they start the Beef Train and Pat, I think guys like David Fayo and Lloyd Gorman could put a bit of pressure on them at scrum time, and if they get that ascendancy there, their back line will run rampant.
Yeah, I reckon the difference is probably going to be if Isaac Lucas plays or not. If he plays, Sunnybank. If he doesn't, mate, I reckon Hino and Elton would have been up the UQ boys all week, and they'll come into this one wanting to send a message to the rest of the comp.
Yeah, I agree.
Northern Jeeps at Hugh Corney Oval. Obviously another Northside derby, mate, besides the North Brothers one, mate.
Yeah.
I think there's still a fair bit of feeling between these two sides. Given North's performances, this could be an interesting clash.
Yeah, it could be. Jeep's got a good wing on the weekend, and so their probably confidence is running high, and I think Norths are pretty desperate for a win considering the last couple close ones. So it's gonna be a tough one, and I know Norths at home are pretty good, but my gut feeling is Jeep's probably going to run away with it. So it's going to be a tough game, but I think Jeeps will probably get the chocolate.
You'd have to agree. The North scrum's been a lot better of late. On the weekend was really good. They got that penalty try against UQ. with Jacob Pinkney, Dane Zander, and Tonga Mafu. Like, that is a massive front row. But if there's one thing Jeeps do, that's scrummage, and size doesn't necessarily matter. It's an 8-man shove, and they do it better than anybody else in the competition. So I see Jeeps just absolutely smoking them in the forwards and unleashing guys like John O'Kent and stuff like that. So Jeeps should gallop away with it pretty easily.
Yeah, hard to go past Chiefs, but I think the Eagles boys will make it an interesting match. Now, our match of the round this week, Bond are back from the bye. They're hosting the Magpies down at the Canal. Jay, mate, I reckon this is going to be a really interesting clash.
Oh, big time. South could find themselves out of the top 4 within a 2-week period, which you wouldn't necessarily think, considering they had third.
We had them pretty much locked in for third.
Yeah. So they could be out of there if results go against them. Whereas Bond could be pushing up and towards that 5th or even 4th place spot, because they've just thereabouts. They've got their second round bye out of the way. They're rested. They're at home. 30's playing unbelievable footy. Not sure if Harry Nusafura will be back. Do we know anything about that at all?
As far as I know, I think he's back. He was at training last night.
So if Harry
Spencer Jeans
Nusafura is
isn't a
there,
bad replacement.
yeah, if Harry Nusafura is there, 30's there, and then from all accounts I've heard Corbin Kiernan could be on the comeback trail as well.
You stole my scoop, man.
Hell yeah. What a scoop, though.
No, mate, it'll be a big inclusion for him.
But yeah, if they had those 3 there, they will chop up.
Now, Fraser, if Harley Fox and Sean Farrell will come back and line up for the Magpies, mate, what do you reckon that could change for their forward pack?
Yeah, I think those 2 boys give them like unreal sort of go forward, and the backs with their pace and their sort of intelligence, they play off the back of their forward. So it's going to be an interesting match. But to be fair, I'm sort of backing Bond. I think they had some really good momentum leading into the bye with beating Jeeps and having the Bonta Bowl. So obviously the bye came at sort of annoying time because they're on a high streak, but also very good, so they can sort of rest up and have a great 4 weeks leading to the finals. But I think Bond at home, playing the way they are, and it's going to be a tough game, but I think Bond in the end.
Yeah, well, I mean, being at training down there last night, I think the team actually feel like the bye came at a good time for them.
Yeah.
I think they felt like they needed it. They've had a week off. I know 30's been in Bali playing his Instagram boyfriend role. So the boys are rested.
I was thinking about doing that, but I had to.
Is that you and Chips in Bali, mate?
Something like that.
Boyfriends off Instagram.
Very
I was
nice.
thinking about getting into it, but I've got a job to do.
Fair enough. Well, I think the boys feel like they're rested. They're in good energy. I think there's just a good vibe down there at the moment from what I can sense. I think they're in for a really good run into the finals, and it'd be great to see the Gold Coast side here playing finals footy at Ballymore. All right, folks. Well, that's it for this week's episode of The Breakdown. Thanks for joining me, Jay and Fraser.
No, it's good to be back. Can't wait for the weekend.
You love it, Sauce.
You know it, mate. All right, folks. Well, round 15 of the Newstead Brewing Hospital Challenge Cup kicks off this weekend with 4 great games on offer. Make sure you get out in Clubland this weekend and get around grassroots rugby. In the meantime, follow us on the Facebook page, Queensland Premier Rugby, for more updates.